Hi again. Thanks for coming back. The pickup pile, there's the 462 and a couple MS201s ready for pickup. In the repair lineup, there's a couple new members I'll introduce you to. There's an MS290, and I don't know why that's here. I'll find out. A 170 for a service and a new chain. A 291 that doesn't run correctly. We're going to take that one right now. 261 with a blown up clutch. 291 missing a bar nut. Another 462 that doesn't run correctly. Uh-oh. A TS360 blowing fuel at the exhaust. A two-man Hornet that hasn't ran in 75 years. Just here for a basic tune-up. He has some limbing to do next weekend. An MS250 that doesn't start. And that's a brand new 391 that I have to get ready for a customer pickup. Right now, 291 that doesn't run right. Get on my workbench. Good afternoon. Welcome back to my workbench. If you're new here, my name is Erica. Today in the bench, we have the Stihl MS291. This chainsaw is owned by a local township. This thing rides around in the back of a pickup truck and is used by multiple people. I sold this chainsaw brand new 5 years ago, and I have not seen it since. This is his first visit back home. So this saw is a 55cc farm class chainsaw. And when they dropped it off, I thought I had read that it was here because it was not running correctly. And the tag actually says hard to start. So we're going to look into what makes this saw so hard to start. Come along with me. Well, here we are with an MS291. Customer says hard to start. So we'll just do a quick walk around observation of this saw. The chain looks like they sharpen it. They take the rakers down. The bar and chain look to be in fine condition. The top cover is held down by 3 screws. That one, that's a Robertson, not supposed to be there. That one's missing. And that one's missing. They must take the cover off this a lot. So maybe it's really well maintained and really clean. The clutch cover has a crack in it right there. The chain catcher is almost severed off. It's bent right back. And it's just a dirty old, well-used work saw. It must work good. I haven't seen it in 5 years. Well, let's start like we always do. We will check the fuel in this saw. We'll make sure there's bar oil in it. And then we'll pop outside with it and see if I can start it. See if there's any fuel in it. Just dump it out and take a look. Starting with a clean container. I see some dirt in there. I'm just going to give it a bit of a shake up. So I don't see any water in the fuel. There's a bit of dirt, but that fuel has a smell like old. I wish you could smell that. Is there an app for that? If you could smell all these things that I smell, that would be incredible. Yeah, that's, I don't know. I don't like the smell of that stuff. So although I don't like this fuel, I'm going to put his fuel back in it. When I take it outside, I want to start it under the same conditions that he was. I don't want to change anything out just yet. I like to be able to pinpoint what the problem was. So, in case you're wondering why I'm putting that back in there, that's why I'm doing it. If it was full of water, I wouldn't put it back in there, but it's not. I'll leave just the end of it. Always catch lots of dirt at the end. Okay, let's see if there's any bar oil in it. Lots of bar oil, and I can see right to the bottom of the tank, and it looks pretty clean in there. The bar oil looks cleaner than the fuel looks. Well, they've got fuel, their fuel, lots of bar oil. Let's pop outside with it and see if I'm able to start this thing. I'll see you out there. Something's wrong. Well, you've seen it. This thing did start for me. It's a little tough to pull over. It kind of wants to rip your arm out. And it did run, but it didn't idle real well. And then it stalled, and then it didn't want to run again. So the fuel is kind of questionable, but before I change that out, let's pull this top cover off, check out the air filter, check out the spark plug, and I wouldn't mind taking a look and seeing if anybody has been playing with the carb adjustments on this. So let's start there. 2 of my screws are already out. I just need to find the right tool to take that out. Those would have originally been T27s. 2 are missing, and that they have in there, I think that's a red Robbie. Yep, that should do it. Like a carpenter screw. I guess whatever fits, eh? There. So that is a dirty, loose air filter. The air filter wasn't even screwed on there. So running a filthy and loose air filter is definitely not good for your saw. This thing's probably been sucking dirt in like a Dyson. Let's pull the spark plug out. See what that looks like. So the spark plug wasn't real tight and it felt kind of funny coming out. And that washer is stuck there in that position. I don't know if this plug was not in all the way. I can see carbon in the thread, in the spark plug threads. And that is not the original spark plug. This is an NGK. The limiter caps on the carburetor are gone. Now the holes are full of dust. I don't see any signs that anybody has recently been digging around in there, but the caps are gone. This just keeps getting better. So we got a loose air filter. Something weird going on here with that spark plug. Possibly the carburetor tampered with. Let's have a look down the spark plug hole. I'll just grab my camera. Well, we had a look down into the cylinder. It looks like metal fragments sitting on the piston, but I think what we're seeing is probably carbon flaking off, and the light on the camera is shining on the shininess of the piston. So I'm going to throw a plug in this so that we can keep going. I just don't want anything going down that hole. And I'm not putting their plug back in. I don't like that plug. So I'll just put a new one in, NGK BPMR 7A. Gap properly. I'm going to pull the barn chain off this saw. I'm going to take that apart. So we got a bunch of twine. The bearing is in one piece. The oil driver, it should move, spins around. It should spin around easily, and it does not. We're going to pull that clutch off so we can see in behind there. So I was outside just running it a few minutes ago. So there should be some bar oil, and there is no sign of bar oil either. So let's dig a little further. That thing looks fine. You're probably wondering why I'm taking all this stuff off when we have a saw that is here because it's hard to start. And then we seen outside that it won't idle. I have seen people have stuff in here wrapped around in here, baler twine, string, whatever. If you get a buildup in there, it can cause a starting and running issue. This was all wrapped around the crankshaft. That's some kind of string. This does not move. This does not spin nice and freely on the crankshaft. There's resistance. There's some kind of gunk on the crankshaft, and it's in the oil driver too. It just, I don't know. This could be multiple issues. We have a severely unmaintained chainsaw sitting here, so who knows what we're going to find. I just put a little bit of carb cleaner on a Q-tip and cleaned the crankshaft where this thing was sitting, and all of this gunk came off. I cleaned this all up. The inside of it was gunked up, and I've put a couple drops of 2-stroke oil on it just for some lubrication. I looked through the service manual and I don't see like anything about how to properly service these, but I did what I think is best. Put it back in place. Oh, that spins nice now. That was really sticky before. It wasn't turning properly. Okay, well, I don't know if that solves any of our running problems, but it solves that problem maybe. Clutch is back on. Put this back together. Just grease the bearing. This drum has you seen I had a hard time getting it off. It's got quite a buildup in it. The color of the drum, like it's not what we're used to seeing. It's kind of corroded. The cylinder is the same thing. Muffler, rusty. I don't know. This thing must just sit outside. Well, that spins much nicer. Before I change anything else on this saw, let's take it outside and see if it runs or idles any better. So if I wasn't clear enough before, when this saw is running, idling, the crankshaft is turning. And if anything is causing resistance, like this wasn't spinning nice before, if anything is causing resistance, that could affect the way this thing runs. So this looks and feels much better. Let's take it back outside and see. No air filter. We'll give it a try. It's oiling, but doesn't want to run. Okay, so I don't think it was oiling before, and now it's oiling. So we have resolved an issue that we didn't know we had. Doesn't want to idle. Will start, but won't idle. So we're going to go through this one thing at a time and try to narrow down what the problem is. I'm going to dump that stinky, nasty fuel out of it, put some fresh mix in it, and then we'll go back outside, see if that makes any difference. And if it doesn't, we will continue on. It doesn't look horrible, but it smells horrible. It might be old. I don't really know. Maybe the saw's been sitting unused for a while. I don't know about the rest of the world, but in Canada, our fuel goes bad faster than a carton of milk sitting on the counter in July. Okay, I've changed nothing but the fuel in this. I'll go out and try to start it again. Now, the old fuel obviously is in the carburetor and the fuel line, so it's going to take a few seconds to purge that through, but we'll see if this running condition clears up at all. I'll meet you out there. Well, this thing runs better. That fuel I took out of it, I think it's old and so stale that I probably couldn't start a fire with it. I don't know where they found that stuff, or if the saw's been sitting for a long time not being used. I'm not really sure the story. An air filter that is so packed and wasn't installed properly. The saw's been inhaling dirt. A crusty old spark plug that wasn't installed properly either. And some string wrapped around the crankshaft. Just got problems on problems. But it starts and it runs and it oils. It's filthy. It should be cleaned up and fully serviced. They don't want a service. I'm going to, of course, it's got a new plug. It's going to get a new air filter. I'm going to give it a quick blow off and put this thing back together. Okay, this thing just had a quick and dirty blow off. I'm not going to detail it. They don't want it detailed. They don't care. When it leaves here, it's just going to go back out and sit in the rain and roll around in the back of a truck again. So we'll just do what's necessary here to get this thing back up and running for them. New plug is already in. We're going to install a new air filter. I'll have to make sure that they know how to, they need to make sure you got to hear that click. You can't just leave it loose on there. Okay, let's Let's replace the fuel filter as well. I can't remember if I mentioned it earlier, but I did check the spark arrestor and it is spotless clean. So let's go ahead and put the top cover back on. All they sent me was this piece of hardware. I'm going to put what's supposed to be there back in, and all three of them. So the hardware that holds this cover on, they actually stay with the cover. I just punch them through and they just stay with it. So how you actually lose all three of them, I don't know. If you know how this happened, just let me know in the comments, because I am curious. I'll give them their whatever that is back. That hardware, that is the part number for them. On top of all this, this saw cut my hand open. It's probably my sign that this is my last chainsaw repair of the day. I'll take that as a sign to go home early. Jeez, they won't know what to do with that. That chain catcher, that thing's mangled. I'm replacing that too. I'm actually out of new chain catchers right now. So they're going to get a nice used one that I have on off a saw that's sitting behind me here. It's better than what they currently have. There, that's more like what it should look like. Okay, let's put the bar and chain back on this. That's been all cleaned up. That was very dry in there. I don't know if they weren't running this with bar oil in this, maybe. I don't know. I shouldn't even try guessing at it. Bar and chain back on. Let's take it outside one last time. Make sure it starts and runs well with the bar and chain on it. I'll meet you out there. Well, this 291 starts like it should. It runs, it idles, and it oils. When this saw was dropped off, they said it is hard to start. So we found a few reasons why it would be hard to start. The fuel that we dumped out of the tank was old, really stinky, stale fuel. So we cleaned the tank out. There was dirt in the tank. Flushed it out, fresh fuel, and a new fuel filter. We popped the top cover off, and we found a filthy air filter not installed correctly. It wasn't snapped in place. It was just kind of loose there. So this saw has been ingesting dirt, unfortunately. There's not much I can do about that at this point. So I installed a new air filter in it. We found the spark plug not installed properly. It's kind of crusty. I put a new spark plug in it. Replaced the almost severed chain catcher. We had to look down the cylinder. It looks okay in there. We took the clutch all apart. I found this string wrapped around the crankshaft. We found some gunk in there in the crankshaft. I cleaned it all up. That all came off of it. So underneath the oil driver wasn't turning like smoothly. It was kind of like, it was sticky. I don't know what that was on there, but it's all cleaned up and that's working much better. Greased the clutch bearing, put it all back together. So the saw had just a kind of a quick blow off, and it's heading back out to probably sit in the rain and ride around in the back of a pickup truck. Good luck, MS291. Until next time. So I have a whole row of saws over there waiting for me, but they're going to have to wait until tomorrow because I'm heading home for the night. If you find my channel interesting, if you find any value in it, or maybe you just find it entertaining, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. It helps me out. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. If you've already subscribed, thank you so much. I'm heading home. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.